Episode 1.
George Rudd, what are you doing?
Shouted the manager of the steakhouse where George worked.
Hurry up and get on with your work. Do you think your family owns this restaurant or something? Standing there while I pay you for doing nothing.
Hearing his boss's roar, George jumped into action. He immediately picked up the duster, broom, and trash can and ran over to the manager.
Right. This, and this,
the manager pointed.
All these boxes. Hurry up and pack them. And get the mess cleared up. Don't even think about getting off work until you've done it all.
But when George had finished tidying everything up and was about to leave the room, the manager pointed at more mess in the next room and said,
The same in all 7 dining rooms.
George only had a half hour of his shift left. It would take him at least thrice the time to tidy up all 7 dining rooms. He was about to protest, but his boss yelled again in disbelief.
What? If you're not willing to do the work, get out of here, and I won't give you a single cent.
George knew he had no choice. Sir, don't worry. Of course. You're too important to be bothered with petty stuff like this. I'll do it all. I'll get started right now, and I'll finish up all the rooms before ending my shift. He smiled bitterly as he gave in. He couldn't afford to have worked so many hours and not get paid a single cent. He was still waiting to save up enough of his salary to buy a new smartphone for his girlfriend, Alice Miller.
At least you have some sense,
said the manager, giving George a final condescending look before walking away. George got to work cleaning the rest of the rooms, but when he reached the 5th one, he was shocked at how messy it was. His jaw dropped, and he stood looking around at the chaos for a few long moments. He'd always heard that some people made a point of trashing the place when they went out to a restaurant. It's true, he thought in despair. It was just a meal. How can the room have ended up like this? He grimaced in disdain as he started clearing the leftovers off the table. Something caught his eye. Wait, is that a phone over there on the sofa? A closer look confirmed that it was a smartphone. And it's a brand new one. Ouch. Who can afford to be so careless that they just leave behind something so valuable? George paused in his work and picked up the phone to admire it up close. Alice had been asking for a new smartphone and had mentioned it many, many times, both in public and in private. He had promised to get one for her as a gift, but it had dragged on for weeks now, and he still hadn't been able to afford it. He was stuck with crappy minimum wage work. He could only barely manage to support himself, let alone buy a new smartphone. But Alice wasn't happy about it. She had been ignoring him for days. The more George thought about it, the more dejected he felt. He had no choice but to look around for extra work. But even if he toiled day and night, he would often still earn less than $300 a week just to survive on. To buy the kind of phone Alice was after, he would need at least $1,000. He looked at the new smartphone in his hand. He was extremely tempted. It really wouldn't be difficult for him to take it. And if he gave this phone to Alice, she would be thrilled. She might even want to be close to me again, George thought, and his heart was filled with joy. No, what am I thinking? This belongs to someone else who accidentally left it behind. George had always considered himself to be a young man of integrity. He knew that the person who had lost their phone must be very anxious, and he couldn't bring himself to just take it. No, I'll take it to the front desk, he resolved. After the initial excitement of finding the phone, reason had returned to overcome greed. George quickly finished cleaning up the room and headed toward the front desk with the phone. My phone! He's got my new phone! A beautiful girl with an amazing figure shrieked, immediately attracting the gaze of everybody nearby. Wait, isn't that Maddie? This is her phone? She was one of the most popular girls at the nearby art school. He held out the phone awkwardly, walked over and handed it to her. This is yours? I just picked it up, and I was about to hand it in at the front desk, but as you're here, I can just give it right back to you. Ha! Just picked it up, she sneered. You expect me to believe that? Why did no one else pick it up? Only you. Let me see. Admit it, you were trying to steal it, right? She snatched the phone away from him and wiped it off with a tissue in disdain. Then she continued to insult him loudly in front of everyone. The restaurant manager was alarmed by the disturbance. He hurriedly ran over and asked,
What's the matter?
You're just in time. He stole my phone, but he won't admit it, Maddie said viciously, pointing at George. He panicked. Why would she wrongly accuse him so casually? He quickly started trying to explain to his boss. Sir, I didn't steal her phone. I picked it up from the sofa in dining room 5. It had been left there. I was about to hand it in at the front desk. Don't listen to his excuses, Maddie said to the manager. I know this guy. He's a student at Harrison U, and he's always struggling for money. This phone is brand new, and it's worth over $1,000. He must have been planning to steal it and sell it. She was determined for him to take the blame. Everyone was looking at George with disdain. Maddie, why are you trying to get me in trouble? I didn't steal the phone, he said angrily. She was taking things way too far. Clearly showing his suspicion and mistrust, the manager turned to George with a hint of rage in his eyes. He proclaimed loudly,